Wildlife Wednesday here at Crow. Today is a relatively exciting day, just like every day here, but we have one of our good friends, our little gopher tortoise. Now this little guy came into Crow last year in 2019, and he is non-releasable due to a rear leg injury. He actually got picked up and shaken by a dog, so he is no longer able to be released back to the wild. Now he's here to help us with what's going to be a very exciting day of looking at eggs today. So what we're going to do in just a moment, we're going to go inside, we're going to take an up close and personal look at most of the eggs that we have incubating currently to determine if they are viable. If they are, hopefully we'll see some baby movement inside the egg to let us know that everything is okay.
Hey Yvette, why did the tortoise cross the road?
Well, sometimes females choose to cross the road because perhaps they're looking for a nice sunny spot to lay their eggs. Or it could be a male just exploring the area trying to get the best food in its range.
So sometimes when that happens, our tortoises unfortunately get hit by motor vehicles. Now we have tortoises that get hit by cars, bikes, golf carts, even motorized scooters sometimes, and it can do a lot of damage. Like this gopher tortoise here. It recently went back to surgery so that we could pull back together some fracturing after being hit by a car. Now lots of the females that come in gravid have had unfortunate run-ins with motor vehicles because they've been trying to find the right spot to lay their eggs. They don't take it lightly, and they do search out the most ideal spot possible so that their babies will be the most successful. But sometimes that means that mom doesn't make it along the way.
So we're in reptile room right now, and we currently have several different species of eggs that are incubating right here behind me. Our reptile room is kept in the low 80s with high humidity, which allows our reptile patients to heal better than they would in a different type of room with no humidity, no heat. These are necessary for survival for them. But it's also ideal for the babies that we have that are currently growing inside of their eggs. Now, it's really interesting because different species of turtles can lay different amounts of eggs at a time. So our Florida softshell turtles, they might have 20 to 35 eggs inside them at one time, whereas gopher tortoises may only have 6 to 10 at the very most. And it truly depends on the size. And that's because gopher tortoise eggs are so much larger than other species eggs. So just for comparison, here we have two different species of egg. So the small one right here, this is a Florida softshell egg. And like I said, she can have 20 to 30 something eggs at one time inside of her. And that's a typical clutch size for them. Whereas this one over here, that's a gopher tortoise egg. It is about the size of a ping pong ball. It is white. This one actually is not viable, and you might be able to see as I rotate the egg, there's kind of a bluish coloration right here on the bottom of the egg, and that is because there is some mold growing inside the egg. These eggs are not viable. There was never any type of life form that was starting to grow within them. So because the softshell eggs are so much smaller, they can have so many more babies at one time, whereas inside a gopher tortoise, those take up a pretty significant amount of space. A lot of people ask how we determine what temperature to use when incubating our eggs, and it comes down to species. Now with reptiles, these turtles and tortoises specifically, so our Florida softshells and our gopher tortoises, they incubate at the same temperature as this room. So for some species, if you incubate at a higher temperature, so say mid to high 80s, you would get all females in that clutch for the ones that hatched. Whereas if you incubated low 80s or maybe high 70s, you would get all males. So what we do here, we incubate right in that midsection. So we're right at 80, low 80s. So when these ones hatch, they will be a combination of both males and females. So typically the phrase is, hot chicks, cool dudes, and that's how you determine what is going to hatch from whatever temperature you choose. Just as we talked about how certain species only lay a certain number of eggs, it's very easy for us to tell what kind of eggs they have inside them when they come in, or how many eggs they have. Each tortoise that comes into our clinic that's been hit by a car or any other motor vehicle gets x-rays, and that's because most of the time they have fractures that go along with the injury. So not only do we see the fractures that have occurred due to that injury, We can also tell if they're gravid. Now we have two sets of x-rays right here that we're going to be taking a look at. So this is a great comparison because over here we have a diamondback terrapin, and this terrapin has egg. Now this terrapin came in earlier this year, and so did the gopher tortoise on this side. So like I said, gopher tortoises can have 6 to 10 eggs or so. You can see in this gopher tortoise that there are several eggs. So we'll count them together. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And seeing all those, look how much space that takes up inside that tortoise. So a lot of these tortoises, when they're getting ready to lay, they're exhausted. I mean, it takes a lot of energy to make those eggs and then push them out. So we'll get tortoises that come in lethargic, and it's because all their energy is going to this. Whereas this diamondback terrapin has different looking eggs. You can see these are those round ping pong ball shape, but these are more oval, kind of like chicken or duck eggs, but much smaller. So terrapins will typically see 4 to 6 eggs per turtle. And you can see these ovular shape right here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So utilizing x-rays is an amazing technique that we can use to help determine what's wrong with this animal. The second we know that they have eggs, we have to change our game plan for how they'll live here at Crow. We have to provide them substrate so that they can safely and healthily lay their eggs without feeling like they can't lay them. If a tortoise or turtle or anything is feeling insecure or nervous or even scared about their surroundings, they can hold their eggs back from being laid, and it can cause a lot of issues. They can become egg-bound where they're not actually able to lay their eggs. It can lead to internal infection. Sometimes when there's fracturing, it can actually break open an egg inside the turtle, which leads to even more issues. So to make them feel comfortable here, we set them up in reptile room in a small kiddie pool, and we have different substrates for them. Now, the small turtles get a kiddie pool. The gopher tortoises free roam on the ground, and they have available substrates so they can choose where they want to lay their eggs. We have forest floor bedding, which is kind of mulchy. We have sand, and sometimes we also have coconut fiber, which is more like dirt, so they can choose where they feel most comfortable to lay their eggs. And if they're very stressful indoors, we'll utilize one of our sand enclosures outside to make sure that they have enough room to walk around, feel comfortable, and lay their eggs when they're ready. Okay, so here we are in our storage closet, and we are going to be checking some of our Florida soft shell eggs to see about their development. Now, most of the patients that we got in, as you saw in x-rays, had eggs that were viable at the time, and if they passed them on their own, so if they laid the eggs, we were able to collect them and harvest them and put them to incubate. If unfortunately the patient passed away, we were able to harvest them directly from the patient and put them to incubate like these ones here. So as you can see, we have a couple eggs that are out showing, and that's because those are the ones we're going to look at, see if we can get some baby movement inside, or at least you can see the outline of them. The other ones that are tucked away down under aren't as easy to see, or they're in the beginning stages of development, or some might not even be viable, like these two that we have stashed away up here. So we can reutilize those for enrichment for some of our other animals. So to candlelight, the general process is that you're in a very dark area, and you go ahead and you take your light and you shine it on the egg, and you should theoretically see the outline of the animal. Now here on the bottom side of the egg, you can actually see the outline of some little hands that are in there developing. You'll see the rest of the egg is this beautiful reddish coloration, and that is a very good sign for these eggs. Now if there is no color, so if the egg was completely white inside, it would be a very good sign that the egg was not going to develop. Kind of like these. So when you have an egg that's not developing, see how it's just kind of orange and white and clear and you don't see anything inside? That egg is not viable. So there's no point in for us to keep continuing with the incubation. Now let's see what else we have here. We have to be very, very careful not to rotate the eggs even the slightest bit, or it could cause some issues with the development. So you'll see on this one, we can also see the outline of a baby there. You'll see the lower part of this egg is nice and red in color, and the top is a little bit more of that clear, light orange, whitish color, so there's some space that's not being utilized in this egg. Put him back very carefully. Let's see what we have over here.
So here we also have what looks like to be a giant blob, and we'll have to kind of figure out over the next couple weeks if this is actually going to turn into a baby or if maybe the baby inside was not actually viable. And here you can also see the nice outline of a baby in there. There's a little bit of movement with the feet over on this side. And very close to the light, you'll actually see some red lines running around the egg, and that is the vein supply for the baby that's inside. That allows the baby to grow nice and healthy. The baby's attached to its egg sac, which attaches to the egg. And this is how the baby continues to get nutrients as it develops inside the egg.
If you ever come across an injured turtle, tortoise, or even a nest of eggs and you have questions, feel free to give us a call here at Crow Clinic. We can absolutely help you with whatever you need, but the most important thing to remember is if there's a healthy nest of eggs, it may take between 60 and 90 days to hatch. Gopher tortoises and snapping turtles do take around 90 days for them to fully incubate and hatch out of their egg, whereas most other aquatic turtle species, including sea turtles, takes about 60 days. Feel free to call us with whatever questions you may have, especially regarding some of these species. Gopher tortoises down here are protected. They are one of our keystone species, and with their burrows, they help to provide habitat for over 250 different species. So we're so thankful we get to work with them. Hopefully you're just as excited about it. Today you got a good look at x-rays, you got a good look at eggs, we got a good look at everything that we do to help our reptiles here if they have babies. Now hopefully you come back next week and take a look at our x-ray segment with one of our wonderful veterinary technicians. But for today, thank you so much for joining us. As always, it is a pleasure to have you here with us, learning with us, and spreading our education as well. If you want, there are different ways to donate. We have our Amazon wish list. We have our Amazon Smile. You can even buy from our online gift store. We do have some very cute things that even grandkids would love. And like always, thank you so much for your continued support.